Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited to share with you my go-to recipe for banana bread. It is my ultimate recipe that I make at least once a week in my house. If you're like me and always have a bunch of overripe bananas laying around waiting to be turned into something delicious, then stick around because this video is for you. We're talking about the most delicious, rich, moist banana bread recipe you'll ever try. This recipe is perfect for breakfast, as a snack, or even as a standalone dessert. So if you're ready, let's get baking. Before we start, let's look at all the ingredients that you're gonna need. Obviously, you need overripe bananas. Ideally, they should look like this. You'll need 4 very ripe or overripe bananas, 1 egg and 1 egg yolk, 100 grams of butter, 130 grams of brown sugar. I like to use brown sugar for banana bread because I feel like it adds a lot of depth to the dessert. You'll need 200 grams of all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. I always like to add chocolate chunks to my banana bread for extra deliciousness. You'll want about 100 grams of chocolate. But you could also add nuts, like walnuts, and they add a nice crunch. As for the tools for this recipe, I also like to use a stand mixer. It makes things a lot quicker and a lot easier. But if you don't have a stand mixer, you could use a large mixing bowl and a whisk. Or even better, a handheld mixer. You'll need a 25 centimeter loaf pan and a spatula for folding in all your ingredients at the end. The first step is to preheat your oven. You don't want your oven to be too high, otherwise you'll end up burning the banana bread. So I usually set it at about 160 degrees Celsius. While the oven is heating up, you can also get to greasing your loaf pan. I like to use a little bit of butter and a piece of parchment paper. This ensures that the banana bread doesn't stick to the loaf pan and it's an easy release. It'll also make cleanup a lot easier. Now let's get to the baking. First, you'll want to cream your butter and your sugar together until they're very well combined. You want to do this for about 2 to 3 minutes on a high speed. It should be lighter in color and no chunks of butter should remain. Next, you'll want to add your eggs. So we need 1 egg and 1 egg yolk. You'll want to mix until everything is really well combined. The richness from the butter and the eggs will give our banana bread that moist and rich texture. Now let's look at our bananas. Here I'm using 4 overripe bananas. The reason why it's better that they're overripe is because they add the most sweetness to your banana bread. You'll want to peel the bananas and mash them. I like to use a fork, but if you have a potato masher, you could also use that. You'll want a slightly smooth, but just a little chunky consistency. Let me show you. You'll want to add the banana mix after the eggs. Here, you want to mix on a slow speed, it doesn't have to be too quick, and until everything is just combined. In another bowl, you'll want to get all your dry ingredients ready. So your all-purpose flour, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Sifting all the dry ingredients not only removes lumps, but it also makes sure that the baking powder and the baking soda are well incorporated into the flour. Now, you gently are gonna add your flour, ideally with the mixer off. At this stage, it's very important not to overmix. You want to stop mixing once the flour is just incorporated and you can't see any more lumps. Overmixing tends to make the bread tough and we want a very tender crumb. If you're using any of the add-ins like chocolate, walnuts, now's the time to add it. Here I'm adding chocolate because I just love chocolate so much. Once your batter is ready, you can start pouring it into the prepared loaf pan. Use a spatula to spread out the uneven parts of the banana bread. This step ensures that the banana bread bakes uniformly and give it a nice and even texture that will make it easier to slice later on. Place your loaf pan into the preheated oven. It should still be at 160 degrees Celsius. You'll want to bake it for about 50 to 60 minutes. Every oven is different. My banana bread takes 60 minutes to bake, but yours might take only 50. I would start checking your banana bread at the 50-minute mark. You do this by inserting a toothpick inside the banana bread. If it comes out clean or with just a little bit of crumb, it means your bread is ready. Here are a few tips to get the perfect banana bread. If the top of your banana bread is browning too quickly, you can use foil and tent it over the bread so that it keeps baking but not burning. For an extra touch, you can brush the finished banana bread with a little bit of melted butter. Make sure that you don't overbake your banana bread. This will make it very, very dry and not pleasant at all. Now let me tell you about why I love this recipe so much. I've always found banana bread to be the ultimate comfort food. It's simple, it uses ingredients you already have, you don't need any fancy equipment, and there's something so satisfying about taking those overripe bananas that you otherwise wouldn't use and turning them into something so delicious. I remember when I first started baking, I found banana bread to be so easy and so delicious. It was my go-to recipe. But as I started to get better at baking, I decided to make my own twist on banana bread. And this recipe that I'm sharing with you today has been in the making for about 2 years, I would say, and it's so worth it and it's delicious. It is also such an easy recipe to customize. I've added Nutella, I've added Biscoff spread, anything your heart desires, and I can tell you it will be delicious. This recipe took a lot of trial and error to get perfect. And my mom, who only ever eats chocolate desserts, refused to eat this banana bread while I was developing the recipe. Until one day I decided that enough is enough and she had to try it. Now, every single time I see her, she asks me to make her a loaf of my banana bread. She loves it so much that sometimes she prefers banana bread over chocolate cake. Your banana bread is done and out of the oven, you want to let it cool at least 10 minutes. Otherwise, you'll just have a soggy, hot mess, and we don't want that. After you've waited the 10 minutes, you can then slice into it. And as you slice, you'll be able to see the soft, moist, tender, delicious crumb of this delicious banana bread. Now it's time for the taste test, and what can I say? It's delicious. It's sweet, moist, and it has just the right amount of banana flavor. That is amazing banana bread. Whether you're enjoying it warm with a little bit of butter or cold or even room temperature, it's the perfect comfort food. Thank you so much for baking along with me today. I hope you enjoyed this simple yet delicious recipe. If you try it, please let me know. I would love to hear what you thought about this recipe. Let me know in the comments down below and tag me on Instagram or TikTok if you ever try to make this recipe. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you hit the bell icon, you will never miss another one of my videos. I look forward to seeing all of your delicious banana bread creations. Until next week, happy baking!